January 25th. Wow, 25th of January 2018. Already 25 days. Long month and short month. It's both. So, January goals. So some goals I put together for this month was one, when I go to do morning podcast, make sure my phone and iPad and everything else is completely turned off, because it never fails that the second I start to record a podcast that they will both go off for no fucking reason. So this is like the third time I've had to do this, the first 2 minutes of this podcast, so they're off. Second goal for January 2018 is start bringing my Contigo mug downstairs at night, because right now I got my coffee in a cup, so I'm too lazy to walk up here and get my Contigo and bring it back downstairs and make my coffee. So this cup I'm drinking out of here will end up pretty cold in about 5 minutes. By the end of the cast, definitely. And then I'll just have to take it downstairs and heat my coffee back up. Third goal, get Game Cave going at all costs. All costs. I don't really care what happens. I have to get things moving forward. So I've been working on this Kickstarter for 5 years, going on 4 now, but it'll be 5 years in October. This is stupid. Basically what happened was I had done this Kickstarter that is 5 years or 4 years. I think I want to say 5. I'll side on 5. I did this Kickstarter with these prints, these Avengers prints that, long story short, cost me my job and everything else. So I was working out the pad, and I needed to put together another Kickstarter to kind of get some money rolling, because the t-shirt companies in San Diego were, how do I say this, wanting to hire me until they'd receive a phone call from my former employer and wouldn't hire me. So can't prove it, but that's what's been happening. So I had this idea of doing a thing called Street Fighter Junkies. So I was just going to basically do a tribute to Street Fighter and do some game reviews digitally and put some prints together. And I'd kind of been putting up some roughies of that on my social medias like DeviantArt and Twitter. And Matt Moylan from Udon let me know that he didn't like that. And I like Matt, so it's like, I had just lost my job. I didn't want to lose an online friend, let alone like one of the head guys at Udon. I like Matt. Like I don't know him, but we've been friendly online for years, since the Game Fan days, and so I was like, I'm just gonna let that one go. So then I had this idea to do a game magazine with fictional editors a couple years before, and I had tried to put it together in 2012 with my buddy James Bacon, and it didn't work out. So I thought, well, hey, why don't I just, since I know how to make a game magazine, I'll just make a digital game magazine with physical prints, because printing books, not a lot of money in it, honestly, unless you can get a certain price point up. Not enough for me to live in San Diego, so. But prints, the profit margin is enough that I can say that it could suffice me for like 2 or 3 months, basically. And if it takes off, then after a few of them, I can take the best of and maybe do a physical edition after that. So I thought I'd sell little sketches and put them in there and collect fan art and game reviews, and just write some game reviews with fictional characters. That idea had its sort of Genesis and Game Fan magazine from the 90s. And in there, Dave Halverson created this magazine where they all had code names, which kind of came from the EGM days. He used to be at marketing over at EGM. They had like Sushi X and a few characters over there. But Dave took it to another level where they had like their own art, and he was E-Storm, and they had guys named like Chainsaw and Shintoshi. And what it kind of, I always thought that was cool. Later, when I worked with Dave at Play and Game Fan, especially at Game Fan, I had a lot of time with Dave when I'd go up there to work with him on the magazine, pick his brain about Game Fan back in the day. And so I was working on Game Fan 2010. So when I worked with Dave on Game Fan, I'm talking about Game Fan 2010 to 2011. Basically, he created the characters so in case he had to change a review or write something, they could do it under a different character. And then nowadays it was done under just like pen names. So, I got it. But I thought it'd be fun to actually have some fictional characters, like write game reviews. So I pitched this Kickstarter because I was told, my business partner at the time was like, hey, we got to get money in here, Rob. I'm like, all right, this I can do. So we pitched it. It was a success. And I got to work very quickly. So my plan for this, to get it done, to get all the reviews done, was to freelance the game reviews between 2 or 3 people. I had Trey, Wesley, and I think James Bacon. I think Bacon, but I definitely know Wesley and Trey. Trey's a writer, Trey McIntosh. And I figured they'll give me reviews, and then I can rewrite them in the character's tone and the character's voice. And I paid them, and they gave me the reviews, and that was working. And I was rewriting them. And we finished in October. By December, I had all the reviews rewritten. I was ready to go to layouts. And then my business partner told me that we were out of money. And I was like, how? We just raised $13,000, minus what we need to print and everything. Should buy me till like January, February at least, and we can get this thing out. And he's like, well, we need to do another power prints. We need to put together a print thing. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. I never saw myself being a sucker, but I got suckered. I got seriously suckered. So I said, okay. We put quick power prints up and raised some money. And I figured, all right, cool, get that stuff out. And then that should buy us till January, February. Come January, he tells me we don't have any money. We need to do another power prints. I'm like, what? We're in, I don't know, man. I said, fine, but literally, dude, I got to get this other stuff done. And I'm not creating any new work, So we ran another power prints and raised some money. And then I had my wedding. And he wanted to run another power prints. And then it became known to me that all the money we had raised from Game Cave and the other power prints was gone. He basically needed to take care of his family and, basically not his problem. His words, not mine. It was 2 power prints he hadn't shipped, plus Avengers prints that, we had taken on board that never shipped, and plus this Game Cave. So I was in the hole for 3 Kickstarters, 5 Kickstarters, Game Cave power prints plus 2 or 3, plus canvas. So there was a bunch of canvas he hadn't shipped from the first power. It's like 5 Kickstarters I was on there. And I'm looking at like, this is crazy. This is a crazy amount of money that I can't even. And he had done some Kickstarter where he sold t-shirts with my art, and I didn't even know about that. That was like $2 or $3 grand. So I'm looking at an insane amount of money. So fortunately, my wife and I had stock options, and so from her job, and woman's a goddamn hero, folks. So we cashed in stock options. 1, 2, I went up north and took work further up north, which created a crazy commute for me, but whatever. I took a paid design job that just involved an hour's commute one way or the other. One way there, so 2 hours a day, to bring money in. And we took the stock options. I paid out the t-shirt because to get t-shirts made, it would have cost me like $7,000, and they raised 2. I'm like, I'm not. So I just refunded that one. Then what I did was I had my wife help me figure out what prints were owed to who. I explained the situation to everyone and said, I'm going to get all your stuff out. So I got the canvas done and shipped. I got the prints done and shipped. And by that summer, it was all clear. I still have some Avengers prints from overseas orders that I have sent multiple emails out for the last 4 years. 3 or 4 years now. I can't remember. And every now and then I get one person go, I never got my stuff. I'm like, yeah, well, I've requested your shipping info, and I will hold on to those prints until the day I fucking die. So I made good on all that, except Game Cave. Because I was like, hey guys, here's the thing. I just spent like $20,000, and I don't want to make a game magazine anymore. I want to write stories. I've been wanting to write stories. I started as a writer and became an artist to kind of like draw my stories, and then realized I couldn't draw the things I wrote because I didn't have the talent. And so then I went to learn how to draw, and I wanted to go back to writing and drawing. And so I said, okay, I will do that while I have this new job. While I had the new job, I was writing Game Cave as a novel that had some game magazine excerpts. And I wrote the whole thing, and it turned out that fucking book would have been 500 pages, 8.5 by 11, full color. I'm like, I can't, that is crazy. I can't even ship that. I can't print a 500-page book, let alone ship. So I had to figure out, okay, I made a colossal mistake here in just creating, right? I just created things without any kind of production thought to it. When I hit that point, my dad died. And that ate into a bit of my life. After my dad's funeral, about 2 months after my dad's funeral, I got laid off from the job because the powers that be found out I was working there and complained, and these companies just said, well, get rid of him. Even though I was the top earning dude and I was doing great working there, they just said get rid of him. So I lost my job. So now I was at a position where, I'm dealing with my father's death and all that aftermath. He had his own business and my brother and family stuff. I lost my job. I still have this Game Cave thing. And my wife, after a couple months of that, we took an unemployment. And after the unemployment when it got to run out, I took job interview after job interview, but no one wanted to pick me up as a designer. So I'm like, well, I need to probably go back to working like at Kinko's or some fucking job. And she said, well, why don't you just do a power prints? And so I said, well, why not? Maybe I could do this one and show that I can do it right. So I run the power prints. But I didn't have a lot of new art. And a lot of the people who've been following me, like, we want new art. So I had about 15, 20 different pieces in various stages of production over the past couple of years. I said, hey, I'll go finish these designs, these paintings. And then I'll do some stretch goals, figuring 1 or 2 sets. It turned out to be like, I was just trying to raise money, and I took on 40 extra stretch goals. About 15 to 20 to finish the base Kickstarter, and then an additional like 20 after the fact. And I said, well, look, if I can bring in a minimal amount of money, then at least I can use this to improve my art, put some quality down, use these as art submissions to get new work, and maybe, rebuild my career or buy time for things to chill out on the whole t-shirt deal. Which my wife said, okay. In the meantime, she started looking for work outside the state, because I said, if we can move too, then, we can cut our costs down. And I figured that would take a year or two to figure out. So we started doing those things. And then my mom died. My mom died. 1 year to the day, basically, that my dad died. Like my mom died on Christmas Eve. My dad died on New Year's. So that week, almost a year to the day. And we had the funeral. My mom had requested the funeral. We had the funeral at the exact same funeral parlor that my dad was buried. And 2 or 3 years before that, the same funeral parlor that my grandfather was buried at. So a year later, I'm with the same people at the funeral house. Same family members, same friends, just... Only now I'm burying my mom, and it's a really weird feeling, folks. And my brother, whom I had gotten really close to that past year. I really went to effort to get close. My brothers and I's relationship is difficult, and so he's a pain in the ass. But after my dad died, I know my dad always wanted us to be close, and so I went out of my way. But when my mom died, my brother sort of always took on the personality of my mom, in his bad moments. And so my brother sort of screwed me out of my mom's inheritance. Short story. So that didn't go over too well. But I plugged away at the power prints. And then my wife and she got an offer. And so I used my inheritance to, well, first off, I had a little bit of inheritance from my father, a little bit from my mom, but the majority of it went to my brother. I used almost all of it to pay off my student loans. It was a tremendous amount of money for me. And so we did that, and I used the remaining of it to move us. She got a job offer to Boise, and so we moved. And this whole time, I'm trying to work on Game Cave, guys. I'm trying, but just every fucking time, right? So I get over here, and I've been in Idaho now for 2 years working on this. Mostly the power prints. I got to finish the power prints and then go to the Game Cave. And fucking every month, you get someone who's like, it's been 4 years, it's been 3 years, what's going on? They see me doing other work, and they're like, you could be working on this. I just ignore those people now, basically, because I've made my case a million times. But what I have been doing is teaching myself how to be a producer and how to look at stages of production and zero in on what I know. That will never work, Rob. That will not be sustainable. That is not production friendly. So I had this idea of putting comic book sections in between the game magazine. But as anyone who's ever drawn a comic knows, that shit takes time. Writing's one thing. I can write about 10,000 words a week. Okay? And still do all my art. But art I can only draw in color at a professional level 1 or 2 pages a week. So I thought maybe working on the color roughies would be a way to do a looser comic book style thing. But here's the deal, folks. It's still comic book pages, and I know I'll just inevitably fall behind. So what and I started getting feedback from fans who've been following Game Cave. Like, I only want the game magazine, or I only want the comic. So what I've done is I found a way to work in comic book panels into a game review through the dialogue and character emotions that allow me to draw the characters looser, focus on their acting, and then make the majority of it words with these game layouts. So it meets the goal, but it's production friendly. So, but I've been working out not just the look of that, but how the word counts work, what are the average word counts per page, a process for writing all the reviews myself. Because one of the problems I had when I had the freelance reviews was they would come in and inevitably talk about their childhood or whatever. And this is a fictional universe, so these reviews were from when these games came out. So half my reviews, we're talking about their childhood back in the day when I played Mario 3. These characters weren't playing Mario 3 when they were kids. They were reviewing it when it was new. So I had to write everything from scratch. And then developing that process that was predictable, that 2 hours of development, 2 hours of, turning that development, a dev doc, into positive and negatives, or things that I need for each character, having each character's voice. All the while, what I had been doing is building the world out. Building the world, laying down character arcs, laying down focus. However, not a lot of room for that story in the Game Cave thing. So the Game Cave thing, what it's going to end up being this year is my version of a webcomic. The stories will be written through words, like in a light novel format, which I'll be posting on Railroad, and sort of using that to get feedback and copy editing and typos, pickups, so I can fix and edit that and then go collect those things. So transforming myself from primarily as an artist to an artist writer, somewhere in between, where there's a lot of writing, there's design, and there's art, and that I can play up my strengths as a cover artist. And there's just so many fucking things, folks. There's so many things that all the while I've been doing that while trying to get a name for myself on some level. So the best thing you can do when you're doing things like this is really just pick one fucking project, and don't as an artist crowdsource projects that aren't already complete. You want my opinion? So and try not to fill up too many podcasts talking about this stuff, because people don't want to hear it. So but I had a big breakthrough, and that I got the comic panel thing to work, and that all the text flows through InDesign, and that it lines up with how I produce the text, and the design, like I think at GameFan I was doing an hour a page. On this one, it will take 2 hours at first. But after the first version of this, they'll come down an hour. And there's reasons for that, elements that I already have figured out, and templates and stuff. So I have a path I've developed, folks. It's going to happen. I'm making it happen. And I just have decided this year I will get less sleep to make it happen. So with that being said, it is January 25th, 2018. And I do believe, folks, that it is time to get to work.